Next up, we are going to talk about your Georgia Bulldogs, Tyler. They are playing in the world's biggest cocktail party versus Florida this week. Let's talk about them real quick. Just got to pull up their stats. UGA, 39th in points per game on offense, 6.1 yards per play, 33rd in the country, 4.2 yards per rush, which is 76th in the country, and 7.8 yards per pass, which is 38th in the country, with a sack rate of 3.02%. That is 16th in the country. On the defensive side of the ball, 19.2 points per game, which is 17th in the country, 5 yards per play given up, 36th in the country, 3.4 yards per rush, which is 21st in the country, 6.7 yards per pass, which is 43rd in the country, and then a sack rate of 6.88%. And I think that's helped out by the team behind me, Texas, a lot. Florida, 28.5 points per game, 51st in the country, 6.1 yards per play, 38th in the country, 4.3 yards per rush, 69th in the country, 8.7 yards per pass, 13th in the country, and a sack percentage given up of 5.95%, 65th in the country. And then we get to that defense, 26.3 points per game, 74th in the country, yards per play, 5.4, which is 60th in the country, yards per rush, 4.1, 54th in the country, and yards per pass, 7.8, 89th in the country, and a sack percentage given up of 7.22%, which is 35th in the country. Tyler, I'll let you start out with this one. What do you think?
Yeah, Florida's defense is getting better and better, I will say. In their past 3 games, their 3, they went 2-1. They should have beaten Tennessee, but they found a way to lose that. But they've given up less than 20 points in regulation in all of those games in the past 3 games. The problem with Florida is they're starting a true freshman quarterback. We'll get that. We'll get to that here in a second. But yeah, Florida's getting better and better. And I said this last week. I think this is Billy Napier's best team. I really do. I think this beats last year's team. And honestly, I think they beat them pretty handedly, especially if they were to have Graham Mertz back, which is a huge loss. I know Florida fans would disagree with that, but that's just a huge loss. Senior QB, in his 5th year of starting football, and he goes down. What was that, against Tennessee? Yeah, it was against Tennessee.
Yeah.
That's a big loss. Now you got to go Flagway. But with Georgia on the alternative, 16.5-point favorite. Both teams had byes. Obviously, last time we saw Georgia, their defense played exceptional, the best that we've seen all year, probably dating back to the Clemson game too. But still, Georgia's, I said this before, this is, believe it or not, this is the most healthy Georgia has been all season. Like even dating back to week 1, in which they had 8 players out, 5 of which on the defensive line. Georgia is getting better and better defensively, as we just saw. It was kind of weird, but yeah, I think this is probably going to be a lower scoring game. The thing is with Florida, and it's really their fans. Before the season, all I heard from Florida was how they're going to beat Miami and how they're going to go 8-4, 9-3. Sunbelt Billy is him, or Billy Napier. And then they lose to Miami at home. They get blown out. Oh, fire Billy Napier. He's terrible, blah, blah, blah. You beat Sanford, and you saw Lagway throw for 200 yards, rush for 50. Oh, he's the Heisman. He's got to start. Graham Mertz is terrible. We're going to beat Texas A&M. You get blown out to Texas A&M. So it's like a roller coaster. Now, apparently, Florida's going to beat Georgia. That's just all I heard. Florida's beating Georgia because Trevor Etienne was a Florida Gator, I guess, and because they scored 50 points against Kentucky and Georgia only scored 13. Those are the 2 reasons why Florida's beating Georgia. Well, I think Georgia's going to win this game. However, I said this last week, I do think Florida's going to compete. This Florida team is the best under Billy Napier. And to be honest with you, this Georgia team, is as good as they are, I think last year's team was better, and I think 2022's Georgia's team was obviously better. But I think this is going to be a pretty close game until maybe the 4th quarter. I think Georgia's going to win this game. Sorry, Florida fans. I know I'm a Georgia fan, but come on here. Georgia's got the way better roster and quarterback situation. The problem is I can't trust a true freshman quarterback to beat Georgia. Lagway's going to go up against the best defensive line he's played, the best defense, really. No, Tennessee's. Actually, Tennessee's defense line is better than Georgia's, but so he has been tested. But he's going to go up against that again, And look what he did against Tennessee. 9 of 17, 98 yards, had a terrible interception. That interception was just ridiculous. He played Texas A&M. He played terrible against Texas A&M. Took a terrible sack. He got sacked twice, had a QBR of, I think, 19. So when he plays legitimate defenses, he's been struggling. Even against Kentucky, he played fine. He didn't play amazing like you said he did. So it's a tough task for a true freshman quarterback in Lagway to beat Georgia, a team that's top 5, a team that has been owning Florida since Kirby Smart's taken over. I like Georgia here, but I like I said, I do think Florida's going to compete. I think they're going to get stops defensively. Their defense is getting better and better. This is a solid Florida team. Problem with Florida is their next 4 games, including Georgia. So I like Georgia here. I think it's going to be something like 27-17. I think it's going to be 27-17. I'm giving Florida a lot of credit here because they're getting better and better. And like I said, they're the best under Billy Napier. This is his best team, at least that I've seen thus far. And I know the fans, they're the fans. They think they're going to beat Georgia now because they beat Kentucky by 20 points. But yeah, I'm giving you your credit, but I don't think Florida's going to outright win. I do expect this to be a good game, though.
Yeah, I actually do think it's going to be a pretty good game as well. Mike G commenting that it will not. He's predicting Georgia to win this game 55-10, which would be a complete ball dragging. So I agree with you. If I'm Florida, I'm literally having DJ Lagway sit down and watch Jalen Milroe versus Georgia and saying, do as much of this as you can as possible. I don't think he's going to be able to replicate it because he's not as good of a football player as Jalen Milroe is currently. Do I think he can get there and even beyond that? Yes. I agree with you. I think Graham Mertz was playing this game. I think it would change the dynamic a little bit. I also think Florida would probably try to play more keep away. I think with DJ Lagway, they're probably going to try to score as many points as possible. I mean, obviously score as many points as possible, but a more up-tempo style of offense. So it's going to be very interesting how they do decide to attack Georgia defensively. And you're 100% right. Georgia is now healthy. So we get to see a Georgia team healthy off of a bye week versus a Florida team who is playing at its best. Now, do I think Florida's very good? No, but they also have a very hard schedule. So that plays into it as well. I'm going to take UGA to cover, but we're close on this. We really are. I'm basically saying your score 27-17, but I think Georgia scores a touchdown late and pushes this over the number of 34-17. I do agree. I think this is a semi-close football game for most of the game. And then eventually Georgia gets over the hump and pushes that over to 17. I would take Florida if this goes over 17.5. But I'm going to take Georgia here plus 16.5. And I'm also going to take the under barely. I don't really love it, but I would take the under here. I think it's going to be a fun game, an entertaining game, especially for at least one half of football.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Florida's, like we've been saying, they're getting better and better, but their offensive line and the rush game is starting to come together too. And if they can get DJ Lagway out in space, kind of like what Jalen Milroe did against Georgia, like I said, it could definitely be an interesting game. I don't think Florida's going to win. And I think if you're a Florida fan expecting a win like this against number 2 Georgia, you're going to be let down. I don't really understand how you can expect a win when you just told me Sunbelt Billy or Billy Napier is a terrible coach and he's fired. I just don't get that. I think that mentality is stupid and ignorant. So, but like I said, I'm giving credit where credit is due. I think Georgia will. Well, I think Florida will cover the spread. Georgia's just 2-5 this season against the spread. Okay, I mean, does that really matter? No, but with what the expectation is, Georgia's kind of, they haven't been the expectation. And going along with the spread kind of goes along those lines. You were a 17.5 point favorite on the road against Kentucky. You almost lost the game outright. You were a 21.5 point favorite against a terrible Auburn team. Okay. I mean, cool. It took you 3 quarters to get going against Auburn. So again, I'm giving credit where credit is due. I think Florida definitely covers the spread. I just don't see them winning the game. But it should be a fun one.
Yeah, I agree. And Mike G says, "Did you see what they did versus Texas?" Yeah, they were dominant. But the thing is, up until that point, Tyler and I agreed. Like if Georgia had shown me what they did versus Texas throughout the year, I would have picked Georgia to win that football game.
Yeah.
Why we both took Texas to win the football game is because they had not done what we expected them to do. So they're going to have to show me that multiple times over for me to start trusting them. Now, I'm barely trusting them here. Like I said, I think they scored a touchdown late and kind of rub it in because this is a rivalry game and that does happen. But it's going to be close. I don't think they're just going to get up 24-0 and then coast. I think it's really going to be like 17-10 at halftime or something like that. Yeah. And then they pull away in the second half.
Yeah. And I can't remember the last time Georgia scored 50 points on Florida. Like I literally cannot remember. I literally can't remember. So I think if you're expecting 55-10, that's ridiculous in my opinion. But hey, I hope you're right. I hope you're right and I'm wrong.